you for joining us. I'm Joy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is The Witches of Letters, a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Buckle up as we dive into Season 1, Episode 13, Route 666.
So, what did you think of the episode?
Yeah, I like this one as well. I'm glad that it was a good episode because I didn't realise until we were recording the last episode, which was Faith, how bloody depressing it was.
Julie Benz is the only reason why I got through that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
there was no funny bits either. There was no comic relief. It was just, and
it was a lot. It was, I mean, you guys probably listened to it, maybe. You may have listened to part of it and then thought, I'll save myself for the next one, which I would understand. We have decided that we recorded that actually on a Monday. And we've decided that again. Mondays are cursed, and we won't be doing that again because we've definitely had an issue on a Monday in the past. So I think it's those two things combined, and we've learned our lesson and never again.
Yeah, end of the week is better for us. We have more like ready for the weekend vibes.
Joie de vivre.
But yeah, this episode though was good. And it's got funny moments this time, so that's good. So we'll have some funny things to talk about. It's got super cute moments and also some scary moments too.
It has all of the goods, I feel like. I feel like we have writing with purpose, talking about social issues, trying to make some sort of difference. We have a beautiful love story. Well, we have two, actually. We have two beautiful love stories. We have a super evil bad guy. We have some really creepy, scary moments. We have, like, horror is really amped up. It's 10 out of 10. There were some jump scares in this one that I had forgotten how absolutely brutal they were. And I went, oh. It got me a little bit, This one is one that I think deserves a rewatch. I think that it has a lot to say. I think that it's probably one of my favorite episodes. Although I have a tiny rant, which is, I hope this isn't a spoiler, but like, obviously Dean and Sam stay on the road, okay? That's the whole premise of the show. But I really love Cassie, right? I do.
Yeah, I liked her.
And I wish that there had been some way for her to be more a part of the show. I think she's a fantastic character. She's so savvy. She, again, is a strong female lead. Doesn't take any shit. And I would have loved to see more from her.
Yeah.
But
I like her.
I think the thing is, I think Dean is too happy with her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go along with the theme of the show, which is the boys are suffering. Like, they're suffering for us. They're these, like, Clark Kent kind of Superman kind of characters.
Yeah.
Where we actively see those characters giving up their own happiness again and again and again for the sake of other people, which is what makes them those heroic savior type characters. And I think that Cassie and Dean have such great chemistry and are so happy together that, like, it would have been the end.
Yeah. It's almost like this only just came to me when you were talking about how they've both kind of lost their great loves, because Sam lost Jess, and then Dean, I mean, I don't know if Cassie comes back or not, but he's kind of not going to stay with her. So it's kind of like he's lost that love as well.
Yeah. And it's such a cool episode as, like, a Dean girl, because you get to see how much heart he has and how deep his feelings go.
Yeah.
And you can tell how much he loves her. She's like his Lana Lang. I'm rewatching Smallville. I keep dropping, like, references. I'm rewatching Smallville. I feel like it's peppering the language that I'm using, but I'm not sorry about it. It's fine. So, also, fun fact, I found out that the writers, I think even the writers for this episode, also wrote for other Superman series and, like, different DC comic series. So that's actually not a totally out of pocket reference. Just saying. I'm still topical. But yeah, no, it's a really cool episode for different reasons, and I actually really enjoyed rewatching it.
Yeah, I liked watching it. I watched it twice. Watched them all twice, but I did think that the truck was a little bit cheesy, which I'll talk to about later. But and that kind of took away some of the scare factor. But overall, I liked the episode, and it was still scary.
So I thought that the first time around, but since I've done a lot more research into anti-racism, I am aware now how entrenched things like monster trucks and souped up trucks, and also as a Southern girl,
Yeah.
how entrenched that is into racist culture, in
Okay.
especially in the South. So the the whole truck thing is actually incredibly historically accurate
Mhm.
and and really relevant as a symbol. So I think the problem is that it doesn't translate well to modern audiences without this context.
Yeah.
Um, but if you have the context, it's super scary and horrible because you realize how accurate and true to life it actually is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a difficult one because I think especially when this aired, people were falling asleep again and just weren't aware of how awful things were and are and continue to be in the US. Um, I think that white privilege is a pretty big blindfold, which we see later on in the episode when Dean says, "Why didn't you call the cops?"
Yeah. And she's like, well, it was 40 years ago.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's like, well, also today,
yeah.
you know. And I think that's what I mean, though. It's that signifier of like, if we have privilege like that, and your instinct is to say, "Why didn't you call the cops?" Then
Yeah.
like, there's definitely more work to be done
Yeah.
because there's a very obvious reason.
Yes. And that makes sense though from what you were saying about the monster truck part of it being like actually relevant to the episode, because it was that I found cheesy. It was it was supposed to be a normal truck, but it was, to me, I was like, this is acting more like a monster truck. And that's
Yeah,
what I found cheesy about it. But that makes sense
yeah.
now if you're saying that that is kind of ingrained in the
I think that's
racism
the
of the
thing.
episode.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well that's difficult for viewers from outside of the US because Supernatural is an international show. There's a lot of cultural context in this episode and like little references that you would miss if you're international. So I have actually done my best to write them down for you guys so that I can unpack it for you throughout the episode and just give you a little bit of context so that you understand what's happening. Because there's little allusions to pieces of history in the civil rights movement in the US that I think are really important. And once I've done all of that, I think that you'll look at this episode in a totally different light, especially people from other places than the US. And I think maybe people from within the US, because honestly, there was some stuff that I didn't know that
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And it makes you look at the episode again and you go, shit, that's really deep. That's a deep cut.
Okay, should I do the synopsis then?
Yes, please.
So this is season 1, episode 13, Route 666. The original air date for this episode was January 31st, 2006. A killer truck is involved in some racially motivated killings in a town in Missouri. One of the men killed was the father of Cassie, Dean's first love, who has called him for help getting to the bottom of her dad's death. Sam and Dean investigate and find out that a similar spate of killings happened in the 60s, also involving a big truck. They work out the truck belonged to Cyrus Dorian. Cyrus was part of a prominent family in the town and a racist who was killed by Cassie's father in self defense in the 60s after Cyrus attacked him. His spirit has been awakened by the recent demolition of his family home, and he is going after all who were involved in his death. Sam and Dean find a way to stop the truck and save Cassie and her mother from being the next targets.
Yeah, that's a good summation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because there was a lot to unpack for the summary. I think you did a really good job.
So the first scene is we see Cassie's dad. We don't know it's him yet, but it's Cassie's dad
Yeah.
who is being run off the road by a truck. And that whole bit was scary. That opening scene was scary because it was the bit with the headlights shining through the back of the
Yeah.
car. And I was just like, if that happened in real life, I would be so scared.
Mhm.
Like someone driving right up your ass and then the headlights like blinding you through your rearview mirror.
Yeah, that happens to and has happened to friends of mine when they've been
Mm.
driving. alone at night before, and it is terrifying, especially when it's a sheriff's car.
Oh,
Like people are power tripping out there.
yeah. But there was scary bits because the truck is chasing him down the road, like really close behind him. The radio cuts out, doesn't it, as well, while all this kind of happens and while he
Yeah,
gets to run off the road.
we definitely get like haunted stuff, which we don't know that what we're being shown is haunted stuff. It feels kind of X-Filesy, but
Yeah,
it's the terror and the adrenaline of, you see this truck is actually armored sort of on the front, so you can tell that it's going to do so much damage to this man in this like fancy car, but
yeah,
that fancy car is not the kind of car that's going to go fast enough to be able to get him away from the driver and the driver's aggression.
no,
um and then you never see a driver in the seat. Like there's nothing. It's just dark and weird and scary as fuck. And the way that he's ramming the car, and like you can tell he's trying to kill this guy, and you really feel for him, and you have the flickering of the lights and the radio station changing and talking about Republican fundraising, which I thought was like interesting as a reference, because the Republican Party traditionally, like both parties, are capable of being racist. Um,
yeah,
and have nothing in America is ideal. Like I think we should say that from the get-go. However, the Republican Party of the two has the worst reputation, and we know why. We know why. They wear red hats, and they attack important buildings and lead in insurrections on US soil. So we know why. So it's completely terrifying.
hmm,
um and you think that maybe he's gotten away because the truck does vanish so quickly, but then
yeah,
he gets rammed. He's rammed off the road, he loses control, the car flips, and we can tell that this is really bad.
uh,
And then we see again the truck starts behaving in a weird way, and that it disappears again, and it's really eerie and really creepy,
yeah,
the way that it's done. But I don't think that you as an audience member identifies what's happening at first. It takes a while to kick in that this is a haunting.
yeah, like a ghost truck.
Yeah,
You know how we like our film references?
I do.
This
Yes.
this one was Jeepers Creepers again. There's a scene in that, isn't there, where there's a truck
Yeah.
that comes up behind them, and
This
I was like,
super
this is,
creepy, like borderline armored truck.
yeah,
It looks really weird and dated. Yeah,
yeah.
it is
It
really
reminded me of
similar.
that again.
I
And
thought of
obviously,
Christine a little bit.
yeah, I was going to say, and obviously
Yeah.
Christine as well, because but at this point, we don't know that the truck is kind of driving itself. We assume there's a person in it still, or at least a
Yeah.
ghost person.
There's at least a Stephen King like little seasoning, like a little bit of Stephen King flavoring with it when you do
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and that definitely is a theme that continues. Like we always pull it out every time we see it. There's a very Christine episode that happens down the road. See what I did there? Just no response. She's just over here looking at me like, "Are you making dad jokes on the podcast?" Yes, yes, I am.
No, I didn't hear you because you cracked up on my side. So just when you were saying that, so I didn't actually hear what you said.
Oh, I said there's a Christine episode down the road, and then I paused
Ooh,
for effect.
that just happened to be. It's like Riverside knew.
Riverside was like,
Like, I'm going to put a stop to this joke right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I felt really, really sorry for this man because that would be a horrible way to die.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I really
Yeah,
had to say about
agreed.
that scene.
No, it's horrific and it's tragic, and it gets more emotional later on when you have the full context or
Mhm.
exactly what's actually happening and
Yeah.
who he is and the way that he dies, and it makes it so much scarier. Like I didn't remember the full story when I was watching it, so I didn't remember that that's Cassie's dad in the beginning or why things were really happening. It was a little
Yeah.
bit of a blur to me. And then I did the rewatch, and I got to the end, and I was like, "Oh my god, that scene is so scary
Yeah.
and so horrific." So
And especially
the
when you
whole
know that he's
levels.
he's already lost one of his friends at this point, which we don't know
Yeah.
yet. And
No, yeah.
he's been seeing the truck before. This isn't the first time he's
Yeah,
seen
and
it.
he has to know because he was so anxious that his wife was like really anxious as well. So like it's
Hmm.
been terrorizing this group
Yeah,
of people, this innocent group of people, can I just say? Um
before it
and
kills
that's
them.
yeah, it's horrific. It's a good metaphor for white supremacy in the US. The systematic terrorization and brutality.
Yeah.
On that note, that happy note, I have a slightly lighter moment for us because we are coming to um, a reference in the episode to a location, which we love, as we know. And I do have a little Easter egg for us about this location. So it's set in Athens, Ohio. And when I researched Athens, Ohio, I found out that the boys, where they are at this gas station, is regarded as one of the most haunted areas in America. Like, there are places on the website that claim that it's the most haunted place, like, just full stop in the world. Like,
Bold
there are
claim.
so many claims. A little bit wild, possibly, but there are a few things that happened in Athens that I'll mention later on that are also relevant to the rest of the episode. I think this is another one where they've really intentionally weaved pieces of history into the storyline. But yeah, I thought that it was fascinating that they've set it somewhere that is supposed to be the most haunted place in America.
But it makes me think what they were doing, because do you reckon that's where their last job was before because they're looking at a map, aren't they? And they're about to go
Yeah,
somewhere else. So
I
that's
think
cool.
so, yeah. Because I've checked every reference and I've put them all in the show notes for you guys so you can go and read through all of the ghost stories, all the little John Winchester kind of Easter eggs. You can plan a road trip if you want to buy these. And they are chock full of like hauntings. So the main place that they go to next, there was one that I was just like, what do you mean? There's a rumor that there's a mass grave from riverboat accidents in
Oh,
the area, and there's a report that a psychic medium was in the area and just saw hundreds of people, ghosts, apparitions, floating into the water and
oh,
coming away from the water and towards the shore, just back and forth, just like a city of ghosts. And when
wow.
you go through the reports of hauntings and paranormal activities at both of these sites, it's just like site after site after site. There's so many, and they're really scary ones as well. Like, this isn't like there's one or two scary ones and then the rest are like they saw a lady that vanished. Like, they're
Hmm.
all quite freaky. So I really recommend hitting up the show notes and reading through just the full links that I've popped in there for you guys because that is some good scary reading.
Cool. So yeah, so they're at a petrol station. Sam's looking at a map, trying to work out a route to Pennsylvania. He says, and Dean is on the phone in the background. And I put presumably listening to a voicemail because he isn't talking. Um, and then Dean gets off the phone. He says they're not going to Pennsylvania anymore as he's had a call from an old friend whose father was killed last night, and that's the man from the start. And apparently she thinks it's a case for them. And Dean also says she would have called if she didn't need them. So that's kind of giving it validity, I guess, in his eyes
Mm-hmm.
as to it being that.
Mm-hmm.
So then they drive off and we see them in the car, and Sam is questioning what old friend means. And Dean says, a friend that's not new. And he is so deadpan. So like, has such a poker face. That was really funny.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say this banter section here was just a thirst trap for me. It's so good. It's the way. So like I have the actual lines because banter. Okay, the banter is important. So
I love their banter.
yeah. So Sam's like, "Oh, I found a way to get us there faster than I thought." And Dean's putting the phone away, and there's an expression on his face, and we just go, what's happening here?" Um, and he says, "Yeah, problem is we're not going to Pennsylvania." And Sam's like, "We what?" Like, Sam is shook. Sam is like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Dean?" And Dean says, "I just got a call from an old friend. Her father was killed last night. Think it might be our kind of thing." And Sam's like, "What?" You can see his face, like the wheels. He's just like, "What do you mean?" Because Dean, this entire time, we go where dad sends us. We go to this place. We don't deviate for anything. And suddenly Dean's like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We're going off on this side quest. And Sam is just like, who are you right now?
Yeah, and also he got really annoyed at Sam last week for doing that. No, 2 weeks ago.
Hypocrisy.
For doing that.
Hypocrisy. Yeah. So Dean goes, yeah, believe me, she never would have called, never, if she didn't need us. And the way he says it, he's like, hell and high water cannot keep me from going to this woman. And I was just like, sir, that's a thirst trap. And Dean gets into the Impala and is like, come on, are you coming or not? Like, Dean is like, this is happening. I'm driving the car. We're going where the fuck I say we're going. We're going. And it was just so like, it was so sexy. It was so sexy because she calls him in her hour of need and he is like, we're going. And this is, if you know Dean at all, the opposite of him in every single, so this is like such a huge lantern to us as an audience that like there's something and it's big, and Sam picks up on it immediately and it's just like, who even are you? What have you done with my brother? And then the way that he riffs on Dean this whole episode, and then is also like trying to set them up, it gives me life.
He's like so amused by the whole thing.
Yeah. Honestly, it's so good. It's so good. And then there's another line where, like Laura was saying, in the car, there's a little bit of banter, and there's this part that, like, I died. So Dan's like, yeah, we went out. And Sam means you dated someone for more than one night. And Sam's so serious. Okay, you guys, he's so serious when he says this line. And Dean says, am I speaking a language you're not getting here? Dad and I were working a job in Ohio. She was finishing up college. We went out for a couple of weeks. And Sam goes, and Dean shrugs. And Sam goes, look, it's terrible about her dad, but it sounds kind of like a standard car accident. I'm not seeing how it fits with what we do, which, by the way, how does she know what we do? And Dean looks so, he looks so like uncomfortable. Like sheepish. Sheepish is a good way of putting it. Like he looks shifty. And Sam goes, you told her the secret, our big family rule number one, what we do, and we shut up about it. For a year and a half, I do nothing but lie to Jessica, and you go out with this chick in Ohio a couple of times and you tell her everything. And Dean is like not making eye contact. And Sam goes, Dean. And Dean goes, yeah, it looks like. And he just keeps staring straight ahead and putting his foot down because, listen, he's going to see Cassie. The end. And I was just like, okay, this is my favorite thing in the world. But then can I just say Supernatural Wiki comes through again with comedy, because their note before we change scenes is, he continues staring straight ahead and puts his foot down. Sam does the bitch face, shaking his head.
Why do they always say Sam has a bitch face?
Why are you coming so hard for Sam? He doesn't even deserve it at this point.
I had a note to make about the family rule.
Oh yeah, I love that part.
I was like, is this Fight Club? But it doesn't quite have the same ring to it, because the Fight Club is the first rule is we don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
The Winchester family rule is we do what we do and we shut up about it.
Honestly, I love both of them. There definitely is a parallel. I didn't even think about that, but it is very Fight Club-esque, isn't it?
I just thought of Fight Club straight away. I was like, it should be the family rule is we don't talk about the family rule.
That is so good. I love that so much. That makes me happy. So before we jump into the next scene, while we're still on the road with the boys, I do have an Easter egg from IMDb, just a little tiny one, which is that the episode title is referencing the 1960s TV series Route 66. And they say that it's especially apt because that show established the format where main characters with no fixed jobs or a home wander the country helping people out in trouble. When you think about Supernatural, that's exactly the format of the show. And they mention a couple of other examples. And what their main examples are Supernatural and Xena, Warrior Princess, which is my other favorite show in the world. And that is exactly what it is. And so I went a little further and I was like, I wonder if I could watch an episode. And I didn't find a place to stream it yet, but I saw an episode synopsis and I was like, this is just an episode of Supernatural. So it
I
says
want to
Todd
watch
and
it.
Buzz, the two boys, try to
Todd
stop a
and
sheriff.
Buzz.
Todd and Buzz, yeah.
That's so American.
It's very American, very 1960s.
Yeah.
So they try to stop a sheriff exacting his revenge on a woman who faces a murder charge after she kills the sheriff's drunken brother in self-defense. And I was like, that is so something that Sam and Dean would do. And
Yeah.
also the whole violence against women and women being strong leading ladies and final girls. I was just like, you know what? I could get behind this.
Yeah, I
I
want to
could get
watch it.
behind this. Yeah.
We'll have to find a way to watch it.
We will. We will.
So we cut to a newspaper office, and this is where we meet Cassie. And this is also where we find out it was her dad who died. So Cassie, the mayor, and then Jimmy. So does he works at the paper, or he owns the paper, Jimmy?
It's not totally clear, but like my thought process was he seems to be the main editor. Like he seems to be the Perry White of this office. So I feel like he's definitely in charge. If he doesn't own it outright, he's definitely in charge, because Cassie also says that like he was the first black hire because it was a totally racist policy before, where that guy's family owned the newspaper and had a whites only policy because they're like the fucking KKK or some shit. And it makes me like the way he is in the office and all the rest of it, and the way that he showed Cassie the ropes and everything makes me feel like he's got to be high up in the food chain.
He's like her boss or something, or like her line manager or something.
Also, the mayor is talking to them about what to run or not run in print. And so I feel like he has to be the person making that decision in order for that conversation to make sense. So he has to at least be like the head editor of the paper.
And he's a friend of her dad's as well. And so they're discussing what's been happening. And this is where we find out there was another black man who was also run off the same road recently, who was another friend of Jimmy and Cassie's dad's.
Yeah.
And they think it might be a racially motivated attack. But the mayor doesn't really help them. He kind of fobs them off, really.
He is honestly, he's like the mayor in Jaws, where it's like, we should close this beach down. People are dying. They're like, we should close this road down. People are dying. And he's like, shh, it's fine. It's like, get down off your soapbox.
People won't be able to come into the town. We won't get any money. It's like,
he is the mayor in Jaws. He's the mayor in Jaws.
Tourism. We need the tourism. What about people dying?
Yeah, I rest my case. Mayor in Jaws.
Yeah. So during this, Sam and Dean kind of enter in the background as they're having this conversation. And then when the mayor and Jimmy leave, Cassie sees them. And Dean gives one of his little smirks that we love so much.
Thirst trap.
Yeah. And you can instantly tell that they're both still like totally into each other.
Oh,
and Sam's just smiling at them. He's just smiling. Like he does this the whole episode.
Yeah, they're straight staring at each other like absolute like teenagers in high school. Like the hormones are palpable. Like the attraction, the passion is real. Okay. And Sam is eating this up because he's like, at last, the shoe is on the other foot and I'm gonna fuck with my brother. It's so funny. It's so good. And like, I love a good romance story, and the whole vibe between Cassie and Dean is just delicious.
Yeah. I feel like it might not happen very often. It hasn't happened a lot so far. Like I know we've had Dean liking people, but knowing that it's just for the case and then he's moving on.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen him like this level of kind of into someone before.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in love. He's definitely in love with Cassie.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother ballpark. And it's really nice to see. And I like how they're like just staring at each other and Sam is like smiling, like internally laughing, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Dean goes, oh, this is my brother. He's like 15. He's whenever he's in her presence, he's like a 15-year-old guy. And Cassie's smiling at Sam, right? And they smile at each other. And then she looks at Dean. And Dean says, sorry about your dad. And she's like, yeah, me too. And then they just stare at each other for another, like, it's just a solid staring situation. And I just felt like that needed to be pointed out. Because it's so cute. It's so adorable. I would watch an entire sitcom of just Cassie and Dean.
Well, yeah, because we're seeing a different side to him. Because before, we've discussed this on previous episodes, where he's kind of written as this character who is kind of like a ladies' man
Yeah.
and just like into one night stands or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there's more depth to him.
I agree.
So then we go to Cassie's house and they're still talking. And I was like, she's a girl after my own heart because she's serving them tea on a little tray with tea, cups, and saucers, which I do.
Yeah, that part's adorable.
Although they are massive teacups.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's bringing them tea. She's telling them that her dad has reported seeing a truck that would appear and disappear. So we know he's been seeing it before the time that it killed him. And she also is explaining that there was only one set of tracks at each of the crash site. Oh, so him and his friends' crash sites were the same. So there was only one set of tracks and no signs of a collision, even though both cars were dented in the back like something had slammed into them. And I did write down the other person's name. I thought we had. So the other guy who died was called Clayton, and he was her dad's best friend.
Yes. And the police keep saying that they just lost control of their car.
Yeah.
Even though it's clearly very weird and it gives us this whole cover-up vibe. And it helps to like escalate the tension in the episode. And I feel like it ups the creep factor too, because we start to get the background that this place is pretty racist and that Cassie and all of the other Black members of this neighborhood are up against so much just being alive in America.
Yeah. And they're saying that they've just, run off the road and it was an accident. But why would they have like smashed in the backs of their cars if it just doesn't make sense?
Yeah. So exactly. So that's where we as an audience start to go, this is questionable. And this is definitely questionable police work. And it seems like the police force is not on the up and up in this town.
No. And Cassie's mom comes home while they're all talking, but she doesn't want to talk to them because Dean starts asking her questions and she's like, I don't want to talk.
Oh, also, we get a little bit of a background between Cassie and Denny when we start to realize like what happened because Sam is skeptical. Like Sam says, and you think this vanishing truck ran them off the road. And Cassie says, when you say it out loud like that, listen, I'm a little skeptical about this ghost stuff or whatever it is you guys are into. And Dean goes, skeptical. If I remember, I think you said I was nuts.
Yeah.
And Cassie goes, that was then. And you realize that what happened was, I know like the brothers kind of talked about it a little bit before that Dean obviously just told her the truth, but you realize like you realize that he was so in love with Cassie that he just came out and told her the truth.
Yeah.
And she thought he was insane. And that's why they broke up. And you go, oh no, because obviously now she knows that all this stuff is real. And they're back together again. And your little heart is just like, oh my gosh, she knows that he was telling the truth this whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mrs. Robinson, Cassie's mom, says, I had no idea you invited friends over. And Cassie says, Mom, this is Dean, a friend of mine from college. His brother Sam. And I died laughing because we know what she really means. But I looked up the college in this area, and it is supposed to be like one of the most haunted places in the whole of the US again. And so it's called Wilson Hall. And it says, students have reported demonic faces scratched into the wood, apparitions of dead students. So there are students that committed suicide, very sadly. And the students who moved into this dorm afterwards, a lot of them claim to have seen the dead students there, just wandering the halls. Objects flying. It's very sad. Objects flying across the room. Disembodied voices that they say range from whispering to just shouting and screaming. And this dorm was actually officially closed by the college, which makes it the only officially sealed off for paranormal activity situation in the entirety of the nation. So never before has there been a dorm so haunted that the university or college is just like, we give up. Just shut it down. But this one, they were like, we give up. Shut it down.
Oh. That must be bad then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the next scene, we see another crash site, and we we see that it's Jimmy who's been killed this time.
Mm-hmm.
So poor Jimmy. The truck
Yeah.
is there again and disappears. And this is where I wrote about it's the revving that I find a bit cheesy, but it is that monster truck kind of feel, which I've already explained and talked about. It does sound like roaring though, which is scary. Like
Yeah.
the truck sounds like it's roaring, and that is creepy. So that's just kind of like a really small little scene, so we know that Jimmy's been killed now. Have you got anything else to say about that scene before I?
Yeah, so there's a section in this scene where she says, Mayor, the police and town officials take their cues from you. If you're indifferent about this, and he goes, indifferent, and they have an argument, but this is the Jaws thing that we were talking about. We were talking about like the intrinsic structure of the town and how
Yeah.
it's clearly quite fucked up. So the history of Athens is also quite fucked up, and I can give you guys a little bit of the background of what that is and why they've chosen to Easter egg us with this one. Because when you listen
Yeah.
to it and then we go through the rest of the episode, it's going to make so much sense. So, there was actually a battle in the town of Athens. It's sometimes referred to as McMinn County War, but it's because Athens was the main hot point, but a whole other county also got involved because the corruption was so widespread. But effectively, it was a rebellion led by citizens in Athens and Etowah, Tennessee, United States, against the local government in August of 1946. The citizens, including some World War II veterans, accused the local officials of predatory policing, police brutality, political corruption, and voter intimidation. There was a state law enacted in 1941 that also reduced the local political opposition to Crump. So, Crump, who's being referred to, is like the head honcho of this whole conspiracy. And then you'll
Uh-huh.
hear some sheriff's names, but he is the head of a political machine that he has put in place to make sure that no one can really vote against him. So he's created a situation where basically all of the jobs in this area really depend on him and people voting for him in order to maintain their jobs and for the city to run. So it's like
Mhm.
a super shady monopoly situation.
Okay.
So he has this law enacted that reduces the number of voting precincts from 23 to 12. Okay?
What?
And reduces the number of justices of the peace from 14 to 7.
This is halving everything.
He's halving everything and he's making sure that he has total control. So any of the districts that might have voted against him, he's basically dissolved their right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this really insidious grabbing for power.
Yeah.
So the sheriff and his deputies were also under his instructions, paid under a fee system whereby they received money for every person they booked, incarcerated, and released. Because of this fee system, there was an extensive fee grabbing from tourists and travelers. Buses passing through the county were often pulled over and the passengers were randomly ticketed for drunkenness, regardless of their intoxication or lack thereof. So they were just being like, you're drunk. You have to pay a fine.
What?
Yeah. Between 1936 and 1946, these fees amounted to almost $300,000.
So just taking people's money.
Just literally just robbing people blind. So Cantrell is the name of his local police, his sheriff guy who's in charge of enacting all of this fraud and wildness. So he's running for power as well. Like the vote is about him too. So Cantrell engaged in electoral fraud, both by intimidating voters who voted against him and by allowing ineligible people to vote. The U.S. Department of Justice had actually investigated allegations of electoral fraud in McMinn County, which is the county this is taking place in 1940, 1942, and 1944, but had not taken any action. I mean, you have one job. So I guess they were either blackmailed or bribed, because what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay, so voter fraud and vote control perpetuated McMinn County's political problems. Manipulation of the poll tax and vote counting were the primary methods, but it was common for dead voters' votes to be counted in McMinn County elections.
How? What?
Okay, so my history teacher, I love my history teacher, Mr. Sterrett, shout out to you, okay, taught us that actually scandalously Kennedy employed the same tactic. Not a lot of people know this, but he said in class, I'll never forget this, and that man was so persuasive in his speaking that the dead rose up and voted for him. And what it is this is a mobster kind of tactic, not to say just the mob, but like organized crime in general. Will
Yeah.
go record the names of dead people in the county because they'll be on the register, and then we'll send people in to add to the ballots to add these names as if they voted for the candidate that the crime families, the people want in. So whoever the dirty politician is, it's a kind of, I don't know if it's still a common practice now because I think it would be difficult to pull off now, but
Well, yeah, you have to
certainly
check your
back in the
ID now,
day,
don't you?
yeah. But the dead voted. Zombies,
Okay.
zombie votes. Okay. So the political problems were further entrenched by economic corruption of political figures who enabled gambling, bootlegging, and other illegal activities. So see, everybody is in bed with everybody else. Like every shady character is in bed with every other shady character. So this all came to a head on election day. So around 3 p.m., CM Wendy Wise, a patrolman, prevented an elderly African American farmer, Tom Gillespie, from casting his ballot at the Athens Waterworks polling place. When Gillespie and a GI poll watcher objected, Wise struck Gillespie with brass knuckles, which caused Gillespie to drop his ballot and run from the deputy. Wise then pulled his pistol and shot Gillespie in the back.
What?
Because he is apparently the KKK, because he is white supremacy
Yeah.
incarnate. Nobody is surprised. I think if you look even at America now, like the idea of a police officer shooting a black man while he's running in the back from police brutality is sadly not that far-fetched. We have a lot of work to do. So later, Wise was the only person to face charges from the events of August 1st and 2nd in 1946. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but only served 1 before being paroled.
What, for shooting someone in the back? Was
For
that different?
literally killing someone who was running away from police brutality. He got 1 year. In 1940, Crump initiated a campaign of political persecution against J.B. Martin, a founder of the Memphis Red Sox and the head of the, I'm not going to say the word. Historically, it's a word that was used appropriately. I'm not going to say that though.
Okay.
It's a league for African American rights. So this American League. Martin, a longtime Republican Party activist, had become chair of the Shelby County Republican Party in October after he staged a rally for Republican Wendell Willkie later that month. Crump. So this is all happening kind of at the same time. So we have this stuff that's going on in this one county, and then we have this going on in another county. Crump ordered officers to police, sarcastic air quotes, or search all patrons of Martin's South Memphis drugstore, including children. Children. Because Crump threatened a possible term for him in prison workhouses on trumped up charges, Martin had to leave the city. So, like, this is the level of, like, racism and power play and corruption we're seeing. Republican leaders and civil rights organizations such as the NAACP urged the Roosevelt administration to bring charges against or denounce Crump, who benefited from a close alliance with President Roosevelt, but had no success. So Roosevelt ignored these pleas. Nothing was done to deal with this situation at all.
No.
Although the head of the Civil Rights Section of the Department of Justice indicated a willingness to prosecute Crump for violation of Martin's civil rights, more senior officials in the Roosevelt administration refused to do so. So Roosevelt is a Democrat and these are Republicans, but these are not party issues. These are human issues. However, Roosevelt clearly refused to do this to another powerful politician who was in his pocket, basically, who was in his corner. So when Martin briefly returned to Memphis in 1943 to attend a game at the Martin Stadium, which he had helped to build, police arrested him, put him in a holding cell, and ordered him to leave Memphis. By this time, Martin had settled permanently in Chicago. Less than a month after this incident, Martin and Robert Church Jr., another Black Republican leader who had also been driven out of the city by Crump, successfully urged labor leader A. Philip Randolph to come to Memphis to speak out against Crump's suppression of free speech. Crump's subordinates responded by denying Randolph speaking venues and by intimidating local Black leaders into withdrawing invitations and shunning him. Crump's statewide influence began to wane in the late 1940s. As Edward J. Meeman, editor of the Memphis Press Scimitar, opposed Crump's initiatives and called for a city manager government and abolition of the poll tax to weaken the power of the machine. So the poll tax, basically, he was reliant on it because he would pay certain people's poll tax to ensure that they voted for him, or he would manipulate others so that they would like not be able to vote at all. Or as we saw earlier on in the earlier example, it would just be shut down. So what ends up happening in Athens is these World War II veterans all band together, chase the sheriffs who are hiding the fake ballots into they went into a fortified jail thinking they'll never get us in here, but they're forgetting who they're dealing with. And these veterans basically said that they went to fight fascism and they weren't going to have fascism controlling their homes. And they found sticks of dynamite and dynamited the side of the jail that these bastards were hiding in, pulled them all out, counted the votes, and effectively saved the whole county from corruption. And then, as I just said, like his power waned because the press actually stood up to him. So I think that creates a really good backdrop for like when we're talking about the corruption in this episode and the power dynamics in this episode, there's a lot of mirroring, I feel like, that's going on between this historic event and what's happening right here, right now in this episode. I can't remember, what's the bad guy's name in this episode?
Cyrus,
yeah. Cyrus and his family, like owning the whole town, suppressing news.
The Dorian family, I think, wasn't it?
The Dorian family, yeah. The Dorian family. The way that they suppressed the news, the way that they are clearly like this entrenched plantation kind of family. I think they mirror each other.
Yeah, it definitely does mirror like a powerful family just having control over everything. So in the next scene, Sam and Dean are getting into suits, and I was like, are these the same suits from that episode where they bought the suits?
I think that they are.
Phantom Traveler.
I feel like they're the same suits, but I was like, I put in my notes, the suits, good God. Like, this is so hot. Like, honestly, just Sam and Dean putting suits and ties on. There's something about a man in a suit and tie, but there's something particularly about really rugged dudes who usually rock plaid, putting on a suit and tie. It's just, so good. I was so happy. I was just like, all of this is a thirst trap. Everything is a thirst trap.
Yeah, and in this bit, while they're getting ready, Sam is just Sam is giving Dean a hard time about Cassie again.
Yeah, so he says, I'll say this for her, she's fearless. And Dean's like, And Sam's like, I bet she kicked your ass a couple of times. And he says it in this smirkiest, smuggest, like dragging Dean way ever. And it made me laugh so hard. And Dean just like gives him this look. And Sam says, what's interesting is you guys never really look at each other at the same time. You look at her when she's not looking. She checks you out when you're looking away. And he's just smiling, this like cat that ate the canary smile. And he says, it's just an interesting observation in a, observationally interesting way.
I couldn't tell if that quote was, if I thought it was genius or stupid.
I thought it was genius. I thought it was so funny. I laughed so hard.
I think the first time I watched it, I was like, that was a bit of a tongue twister, and I had to kind of think about what he'd actually said, and then the second time I thought it was funny.
Yeah. And Dean's like, anything but this. So Dean says, you think we might have more pressing issues here? And Sam's like, hey, if I'm hitting a nerve. And you can tell that he's delighted by life, okay? Sam is living his best life in this episode, just giving Dean shit. And it's great. And it's hot because there are suits, okay?
Yeah, and we find out in the next scene that the reason they've got their suits on is so that they can interview some of the townspeople. So they're pretending to be with an insurance company, and they speak to two men about Jimmy and whether he had seen anything unusual before he died or had had any visions or anything. And one of the guys is called Ron. He's kind of engaging in conversation with them. The other one's just kind of observing and listening.
Mm-hmm.
But the other guy does perk up when they mention a big truck. And he tells them then about a similar story from the 60s where there was a string of deaths of black men, and whoever did it drove a big black truck, and the police never found the killer, or they didn't really look for the killer. So they now know that there's this truck is definitely something to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much more about that scene, is there?
No, not really. So Sam and Dean start talking about it, and we start getting the show lore coming in. So Dean says, I was thinking, you heard of the Flying Dutchman? And Sam says, yeah, a ghost ship infused with the captain's evil spirit. It was basically part of him. And Dean says, so what if we're dealing with the same thing, a phantom truck, an extension of some bastard's ghost reenacting past crimes? And Sam goes, yeah, all the victims have been black men. And Dean says, I think it's more than that. They all seem connected to Cassie and her family. And Sam's like, all right, well, you work that angle, go talk to her. And Dean goes, yeah, I will. And we're all like, I bet you will. I bet you will. And then Sam's like, oh, you might also want to mention that other thing. And Dean's like, what other thing? And Sam goes, this serious, unfinished business. And we know exactly what he's talking about. And Dean just like, his face is a picture. And Sam's like, Dean, what is going on between you two? And Dean's like, all right, so maybe we're a little bit more involved than I said. And Sam's staring. He's waiting. Nothing's happening. He goes, okay. And Dean goes, okay, a lot more, maybe. And I told her a secret about what we do, and I shouldn't have. And Sam's like, listen, we've all got to open up at some point in our lives. And Dean goes, yeah, it was stupid to get that close. I mean, look at how it ended. And Sam smiles at Dean. And Dean goes, would you stop? And Sam keeps smiling at him. And Dean says, blink or something. And Sam goes, you loved her? And Dean goes, oh God. And he's like retreating to the Impala. Sam goes, you were in love with her, but you dumped her. And Dean is just dead silent, and he's not looking at anyone or anything. He's avoiding all possible eye contact. And Sam goes, oh, wow, she dumped you. And Dean is, get in the car. Get in the car.
I thought it was funny. At some point during that conversation, it was like they were having a staring contest because they were just staring at each other and not saying anything, which I thought was hilarious.
I also thought that was a thirst trap. It was hot. I don't know why.
The staring contest.
It was banter. It was hot. It's all hot.
So then we have the scene where Dean goes to see Cassie. I had a side note here to say about her office or the study, whatever room she was in, was really cool because it was like almost like a library. It has there was all green armchairs and books everywhere. It was nice.
Yeah.
Oh, and I had a thirst trap for Dean when he's leaning on the pillar thing in the room.
Oh my God, yes. Yes. 1,000 times, yes.
And she tells us a bit more about the family, the Dorian family, who were really prominent in the town. And they had a whites-only staff policy, which I wrote gross. But it's important for later.
Yeah. So she says, for years, his family owned the paper, the Dorians. They had a whites-only policy. After they sold it, Jimmy became the first black reporter. He didn't stop until he became the editor. I was right. He was the editor. He taught me everything. And then she says, where's your brother? And I was like, oh, this town is fucked up.
Yeah.
And Dean goes, not here. And she's like, all right, so what brings you here? And then he's like, I'm trying to find the connection. And they talk about the racist thing. And then Dean goes, so just then, why did you ask where my brother was? And Cassie says, nothing. It's not important. And Dean says, could it be because without him here, it's just you and me? Not you, me, and Sam, which would be easier. And Cassie goes, it's not easier. Look, and Dean goes, no, forget it. It's fine. We'll keep it strictly business. And you can tell his little baby feelings are hurt. Okay. And Cassie says, I forgot you do that. And Dean says, do what? And Cassie goes, oh, whenever we get, what's the word, close, anywhere in the neighborhood of emotional vulnerability, you back off or make some joke or find any way to shut the door on me. And Dean is offended. And he says, oh, that's hilarious. See, I'm not the one who took that big final door and slammed it behind me. And Cassie goes, okay, wait a minute. And Dean says, and I'm not the one who took the key and buried it. He likes the metaphor. Okay, when he's angry, Dean is going hard on the metaphors with her because he is furious, and I love it. And Cassie goes, we done with this metaphor? Because she and I are on the same page. And Dean says, all I'm saying is I was totally upfront with you back then, and you nailed me for it. And Cassie's like, the guy I'm with, the guy I'm hoping might be in my future, tells me he professionally pops ghosts. That was so funny. And he goes, that's not the words I used. And Cassie says, and then he has to leave to go work with his father. And he goes, I did. I'm like dying. And Cassie says, all I could think was, if you want out, fine, but don't tell me this insane story. And Dean is like, it was the truth, Cassie. And I noticed it didn't sound insane the minute you thought I could help you. And Cassie's like, well, back then I thought you just wanted to dump me. And Dean's like, whoa, now let's not forget who dumped who, okay? And Cassie says, I thought it was what you wanted. And Dean goes, well, it wasn't. And she says, I didn't mean to hurt you. And he's like, well, you did. And she says, I'm sorry. And he's like, yeah, me too. And then they have a sex scene, and it's very hot, okay?
Yeah,
and
they get it on.
They get it on. Bow, go, wow, wow. And it's an amazing scene. It's an amazing scene. Fun fact, according to IMDb, the show, I don't want to say censors, producers, I don't know. The people at the network did not want Cassie to be on top. And the note says, in typical Supernatural fashion, that's exactly what they shot.
Does it matter to the network, who's on top?
Literally, I have no idea. I literally have no idea. It's the weirdest thing, but it's in the IMDb notes. It's bizarre.
Oh. I've just realised I didn't read those again before the episode. This is the first actual sex scene we've had in the show so far.
It is the first sex scene. Yeah.
Because, yeah. So in the next scene, the truck is now going after the mayor. And his death is actually really quite grisly. Did you see his mouth when he rolls down the hill?
I wrote it down.
Messed up.
I wrote it down because I was like, this is fucking scary.
Yeah.
I wrote down the mayor gets brutally, all capitals, underlined, killed. He has white dead eyes. You see the life drain out of his eyes. CGI, some kind of situation. It's terrifying. He does this terrifying, the dead guy scare. His face is ripped open with blood falling out of his mouth because the way that he gets hit, it rips off part of his mouth and cheek and face. So you get this weird fucking disgusting, scary, Joker grimace. With the blood just dripping down. And it's such a jump scare because you're not expecting it. You're not expecting it. And it's such an immediate camera cut to close up of his dead face.
And it's only a second or something, isn't it? It's really quick. You don't see it for long.
It's so short and so scary. And I feel like it's honestly, again, how did they get this on network TV? Okay. How? Because it was so fucked up. That's some HBO.
Same way they got the sex scene with her on top.
Yeah, I guess. It's just...
Maybe they just did it and were like, this is 13 episodes in. I wonder what their ratings were like. Maybe they got away with stuff because of that.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, the same reason why the first season of Star Trek got away with certain things that they got away with. Because they also rebelled.
So he rolls down the hill and he's clearly dead, as we just discussed. I feel like this bit was designed to be a bit of a red herring because the mayor is white.
Mm-hmm.
And up until now, the murders have been racially motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of okay, so maybe you start to think maybe it wasn't that it wasn't the reason. But obviously we find out later there is a reason for the mayor to be killed along with all the other men because they were all involved in Cyrus's death. But we don't know that yet.
Yeah, it is
and Dean
a red
does
herring.
actually say it. Yeah, but Dean does actually say it. I didn't notice it the first time. I'd written it in my notes the second time. But Dean does actually say this later because he says he's white. It doesn't fit the pattern.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to Dean and Cassie, who are now in bed, and they're
Mm-hmm.
still talking about their past relationship. And I just wrote, they're so cute together and both clearly into each other.
Yeah, they have this little heart to heart, and there's this conversation, and things are mentioned, and it's like you can tell that both of them imagined living the rest of their lives together from this conversation
Yeah.
alone. And he is like cradling her in his arms in the bed
Yeah.
in this really manly, romantic way. Thirst trap. Thirst trap. It's hot. It's so hot. I love that scene. And then Dean gets a phone call, and then we cut to the next scene.
Yeah, because we assume from the next scene that it was Sam who was on the phone telling Dean
Mm-hmm.
about the mayor. So Dean goes to that crime scene. I thought this scene looked nice because it was kind of snowing. There was snow on the ground and loads of like fallen leaves.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just looked nice.
There are
And
lines
Sam,
here that I'm obsessed with. Sorry.
I was just going to. Sam says that the police are stumped because he looks like he's been hit by a truck, but there's no tracks again.
Yeah. So they have this little conversation. Sam says, "Where were you last night? You didn't make it back to the hotel." And the way he says it, the face that he's making, you need to go watch it. You just immediately, you need to pull it up on your laptop and watch it because, oh my God. Thing goes well. And Sam goes, "I'm guessing you guys work things out." And he goes, "We'll be working things out when we're 90. So what happened?" And I was like, that right there. We'll be working things out when we're 90.
Yeah.
Dean wants to marry her. Okay.
Yeah.
Dean wants to live the rest of his life with her. And I was just like, I need to highlight this because one, it's really funny banter, but two, my heart when he says that. It's spicy and it's cute and it's just it's beautiful and I loved it.
Yeah. So then the next scene, Dean and Cassie are researching this time. Dean's trying to find a link between the killings in the 60s and now. Sam calls him to say that the mayor had bought an abandoned building that belonged to the Dorian family for 150 years. And that's the family that we've been talking about, who
Mm-hmm.
owned the paper and were the prominent family in town. I think Cassie says that they are the real pillars of the town. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's always the pillars of the community, isn't it? Who are the bad
Mm-hmm.
guys, end up being the bad guys.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
in any kind of as a true crime fan, it's always, he was such a pillar of the community.
100%.
So Dean he's on his computer, so he's literally looking it up at the same time as Sam is saying this, and he finds that Cyrus Dorian went missing and was never found around the time of the original killings in the 60s. And Sam says that the mayor had bought this place but bulldozed it straight away, and this only happened a few weeks ago. And the most recent spate of killings, happened the very next day.
Yeah. And I wrote down that this scene, the way that it's filmed, is very film noir. They're in the
Mm.
newspaper office. There is beautiful Venetian blind lighting on them as Cassie and Dean are investigating. And it's like that scene where you have the PI and then you also have the femme fatale from movies
Uh-huh.
back in the day. It has a very old, kind of like almost like 30s kind of a feel to it. And it's gorgeous. And them
Yeah.
together investigating like Lois Lane and Clark Kent. It's hot. Okay. It's so cool. I love it so much.
So then we get a really scary scene. So Cassie's at home that night and she's just kind of walking around, as you do, and the lights start flickering behind her. And I wrote down, so we know some spooky bullshit is about to happen.
Yep. Yep.
And then we hear the truck engine revving outside, and that is really scary. And there's a really cool shot where she goes to the window because of how the light from the headlights of the truck is shining through the window on her. It just looks really cool.
It does look really cool. Again, it's giving me very much like film noir vibes, the way that it's all
Yeah.
put together. It's really cinematic. It's super scary. Like she's moving through her house as the lights are flickering, and it's really reminiscent of like what happened with Mary in episode 1 where the lights are all flickering and everything's going super weird. So
Yeah.
she's running from place to place and the truck is circling from the outside, like it is literally going to like go through her house and run her down. It is absolutely terrifying. And it's like she can't get away no matter what happens. And she grabs the phone and calls Dean. and
Yeah.
she's
And she's like, Dean.
terrified. She's like, Dean, Dean.
Yeah,
And you can hear all of the panic and everything in her voice.
definitely. Yeah. I did think though, why she kept running around trying to like close all the windows and doors. If you thought a truck was about to drive through your house, wouldn't you go upstairs out of the way?
I don't, I mean, okay, so it's a good point, but I think I didn't think about it when I was watching the scene. And I think if you were realistically that panicked, I'm not sure if it would occur to you at the time. Like,
Yeah, I suppose she was like in shock, like not shock, yeah, panicked. Is the
she's
yeah.
fully panicked. She's in full panic mode. And like, we just don't
Mm.
think that clearly when things are like that. And yeah, I think it's realistic for her to panic and call Dean.
Uh-huh.
In an ideal world, yeah, you would run upstairs. But also, I don't know, like, depending on how, I don't know if there's a level that it could damage the house so badly foundationally that wouldn't
Yeah, that would be worse if
always
you're
help.
upstairs.
So
Mm.
I don't know that there's really, it's a good idea, but I don't know if it would always work in every situation. I don't know. It's just
I
such a
definitely wouldn't have
scary.
thought I'd run right to the windows though, because then you'd definitely get um hit if the car came through your window, wouldn't you?
I mean,
But
it's
anyway,
a
it was
yeah. I think that she at the time is thinking, well, at least I don't know. The way that it looked to me was she was trying to both see where it was and also avoid being seen. Because there's that section where
yeah,
she's closing the blinds. So, like, she is running to the windows to shut stuff so that he can't see where she is in the
where
house.
she is. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was really effective anyway. It was a really scary scene, the whole thing.
Yeah, terrifying, honestly.
Um, so then the next scene is like the aftermath of that, and Sam, Dean, Cassie, and her mum are all together in the house
Yeah.
talking. And Cassie says that it looked like no one was driving the truck. So she's kind of gotten the closest to it because she can
Mm-hmm.
tell there's no one there. And she says it just disappeared. Sam asked Mrs. Robinson again about what her husband said he saw before he died, and she just like she looks very unsettled.
Yeah.
And she said he was under a lot of stress. And then this is where Dean gets annoyed with her. He's a bit blunt with her,
Yeah.
and says that her and her daughter could die if she doesn't tell them. And
Yeah.
then she says
Because
that he had seen a
he's
truck.
wildly in love with Cassie, and he's like, "You need to save Cassie." Like, you can tell that's the
Yeah,
motivation. Is he an asshole? Yes. But does it come from a good place? Also, yes.
yeah. I think he's just kind of, you need to tell us because this is happening now.
Yeah.
Um, But she says that he did see a truck and he thought it belonged to Cyrus Dorian, but he had died 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean asks why she knew he died, as the paper only said he went missing.
Yeah, and that's the part where we go, "Oh, snap." So
Yeah.
something went down. So she says, "We were all very young. I dated Cyrus a while. I was also seeing Martin in secret, of course. Interracial couples didn't go over too well back then. When I broke it off with Cyrus and when he found out about Martin, I don't know, he changed. His hatred was frightening."
Oh,
And
that
Sam
bit was
says,
chilling.
"It's terrifying." Sam says, "The
Yeah.
murders." And she says, and she's like, her voice is breaking and she's on the verge of tears. "There were
Mm.
rumors, people of color disappearing into some kind of truck. Nothing was ever done. Martin and I, we were going to be married in that little church near here, but the last minute we decided to elope as we didn't want the attention." And
Mm.
Dean says, "And Cyrus." And she's totally breaking down at this point. And she says, "The day we set for the wedding was the day someone set fire to the church. There was a children's choir practicing in there. They all died."
Mm-hmm.
And that's so sad. And that actually leads into another Easter egg, a reference, because that's referring to something that really happened. Okay, so what this scene is referring to is actually a bombing that happened at the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. It killed 4 of the 5 children tragically inside. They were having choir practice, exactly like the way that they stated in the episode. It was a
Oh.
terrorist attack carried out by KKK members. There were 4 KKK men. They planted 19 sticks of dynamite underneath the east side of the church, killing Addie Mae Collins, who was 14, Cynthia Wesley, who was 14, Carol Robertson, who was 14, and Carol Denise McNair, who was 11. It was described by Martin Luther King Jr. as one of the most vicious and tragic crimes ever perpetrated against humanity. The explosion, which killed 4, also injured 22. Although the FBI concluded in 1965 that the bombing was committed by the KKK, no prosecutions were conducted until 1977, and 2 of the men were not sentenced until 2001 and 2002.
What? It
It's
happened in the 70s.
fucking disgraceful. Yeah.
Yeah.
But is anybody surprised? So, because of what happened in that church, you have the whole of the civil rights movement effectively is kind of ignited. So it's a unifying moment. The Birmingham campaign was born, and also the March on Washington, which had worldwide news coverage and increased the awareness around the globe and sympathy for the civil rights movement in the US. Also, the Selma to Montgomery marches of 1965, and therefore the Civil Rights Act itself. But that's why that scene and what she's saying is so important, because it gives us the full context of what she's talking about and what's happening in this episode.
There's so many Easter eggs like that, isn't it? Where you don't even think, you just think that's a writing thing, but it's based on a real story.
So when I was researching the show, I found out that actually a lot of the writers came over from X-Files, but also from Star Trek. And something that Star Trek, and to a much lesser degree the X-Files does, which is something that I really admire, and one of the reasons why I wanted to be a screenwriter for so long, is they take storytelling and they use it to dissect social issues, but for a purpose. They want us to take action. They want us to know our history. They want to educate us. And then they want us to take action. They want us to do something about these things. It's the reason why, I don't know if you've ever read Terry Pratchett, but it's one of the reasons why Terry Pratchett is one of my favorite writers of all time, because Terry Pratchett takes the example that was set by Charles Dickens, who included human rights issues in his writing and set out to give us real examples to live up to of how we could correct what is going wrong in society, and makes us as people aware that we are responsible, that we're the main characters in what's happening, and we're responsible to do something good.
Yeah. I did read Terry Pratchett when I was younger, but I haven't read as an adult.
Definitely reread it. It's so amazing. Especially, I think the book, the main one that I think, there's a few, to be fair, but the big one that comes to mind is called Snuff. And it is about human trafficking and racism and the slave trade historically, and also in more modern terms, I think. And it's incredible. But I love storytellers that see social justice issues and want to light fires underneath it and make people care, and want to try to set examples for how we should be. And that's something that started very much on Star Trek, in my opinion, and has carried through this legacy of sci-fi shows and like horror shows where they tackle real issues and they want us to get educated and do stuff. So in my show notes, you're going to find links for both the UK as well as the US for anti-racist charities, activities, things you can sign, things you can donate to, and educational materials. So it will educate you, and then it will give you actions that you can take to help right some of the wrongs that we live with around us every day. So we return to this scene, and she said about the children's choir practicing there and then them being killed. And Sam says, did the attack stop after that? And Mrs. Robinson says, no, there was one night that the truck came from Martin. Cyrus beat him up, something terrible. But Martin got loose and he started hitting Cyrus, and he just kept hitting him and hitting him. And Dean says, why didn't you call the cops? Because he has to be the voice of white privilege in this episode. So Mrs. Robinson is crying, and she says this was 40 years ago. Meaning he would have been fucking killed. And I think it's worth examining what this means to us now. And is that something that would be safe today, even? He called on his friends Clayton Soames and Jimmy Anderson, and they put Cyrus's body into the truck and they rolled it into the swamp at the end of his land, and all three of them kept that secret all of these years. And Sam says, and now all three are gone. And Dean says, and so is Mayor Todd. Now, he said that you of all people would know that he's not a racist. Why would he say that? And she says, he was a good man. He was a young deputy back then investigating Cyrus's disappearance. Once he figured out what Martin and the others had done, he did nothing because he also knew what Cyrus had done. So he was actually a decent cop in his days as a police officer. And Cassie is asking, go ahead.
I was going to say, so he did nothing, as in he was protecting them. Not that he didn't do anything,
but he did nothing as in he didn't tell anyone. He kept the secret for all of these years because he was like, well, he's a fucking racist piece of shit who needed to die. It's fine. This is what needed to happen. Put him in the swamp. So then we get the question that probably we're all wondering, which is Mrs. Robinson is asked, why didn't you tell anyone? And she's crying and she says, I thought I was protecting them and now there's no one left to protect. Because even now they would be at risk because this is a group of black men who killed a white man. And we saw just from those notes that the men who bombed those little girls in that church didn't even get properly prosecuted until the late, not the late 2000s, but 2001 and 2002 is incredibly fucking late for a crime that was committed in the 1960s.
Yeah.
So you can see her point when she says that she thought that she was still protecting them.
Yeah.
And Dean says, yes, there is, meaning Cassie. And they realize that Cassie is now the next target because Cassie is the child of the woman that our evil bad guy thought that he was in love with, or at least thought that he wanted to possess, right? And this man who he tried to kill, who ended up killing him. So like Cassie's got to be target number one now.
Yeah. So then it's the same night, but then Sam and Dean are outside, leaning on the car, talking, and they're kind of discussing what has happened. So they're saying that Cyrus's ghost was awakened because of the house being torn down, and they kind of make a sort of a joke about having to dredge. They're going to have to dredge the body out from the swamp.
Yeah.
I wrote, they're thrilled by this.
Yeah.
And Cassie comes out to speak to them. And Dean asks her not to leave the house, just to stay there and look after her mum. And I wrote down this little bit because these quotes were good. So Cassie says, don't go getting all authoritative on me. I hate it. And Dean says, don't leave the house, please. Which was really cute.
I love it because Dean is he's a puppy dog. Okay, he's a puppy dog. It is adorable. And Sam in the background is like silently laughing. He's smiling, but we all know that he's laughing at Dean because Dean's like, don't leave the house, please. Like, it's great. It's great. And then they're kissing each other. Okay. So Cassie kisses Dean. And Sam is watching this and is like clearing his throat like we have a job to do. And Dean is like waving Sam off like, shut up and leave me alone, man. And that part, again, that was
I think I missed that.
Funny. Yeah, no. If you watch it, you guys, you
I missed him waving him away.
Everyone should watch this scene. They're making out and Sam's like, come on, we've got a job to do. You know, he's like, like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
And Dean is like, just waving his hand, waving Sam away, like, shut up, I'm busy.
So the next scene is them pulling the truck up from the swamp. And I had a tiny flag here. Where the hell did they get a digger or an excavator from in the middle of the night?
I mean, it's Sam and Dean. They clearly stole it. Like, grand theft of some kind has occurred.
But where from? Normally those things are like locked away somewhere.
I mean, breaking and entering is a specialty of theirs. So they have research is a specialty of theirs. So I feel like Sam found out where it was. And Dean went in with the bolt cutters and broke it out. And then there were probably some funny banter where Sam is giving Dean shit for his romantic life while they're taking it to pull this guy out of the swamp. Like, that's clearly what happened.
The next note I have is Sam is a bit obsessed with bringing Cassie up and getting Dean to admit he still loves her.
Oh, yeah. No, I love this. Sam goes, "Come on, man. You can admit it. You're still in love with her." And Dean's like, "Can we focus, please?" And Sam's like, "I'm just saying, Dean. I'm just saying." And they're handing stuff back and forth, and they're like, it's the banter. The banter of Sam being like, "You love her. You want to marry her." He doesn't say that, obviously, but like that is the whole vibe, and it's so funny.
It's a very like brotherly, like sibling thing.
Yeah, brotherly banter, as we like to say.
So they pull this truck up, they open the door, and the body's in there. And I was like, it looks mummified, but I suppose it would because it's been in the swamp for
Yeah, 100%. Like
40 years.
I was disgusted. Like, you remember when they found Dr. Ellicott in that cupboard, and I was like, "This is too much for network TV." This is too much for network TV. Okay, like they open the door and the water's coming out, and he's all there, and he's all disgusting and decaying and mummified and like saltwater swamp body. It's too realistic. That was too much for me. If I had been eating food, I would have like dry heaved. It was not good. It was not good. So they salt and burn the body, and they think that that's going to be the end of it, because usually that's the end of it. But guess what, people? That is not the end.
No, I love this whole quote. So I wrote down the quotes because Sam says, "You think that'll do it?" And then the truck engine revs and the headlights turn on. And Dean goes, "I guess not." Blackout.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
And then it carries on because then it comes back. So it's a blackout and then it carries on. And Sam says, "So burning the body had no effect on that thing?" And Dean says, "Sure it did. Now it's really pissed."
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it so much. So Sam goes, "But Cyrus's ghost is gone, right, Dean?" And Dean's walking away, and he goes, "Apparently not the part that's fused with the truck." And Sam goes, "Where are you going?" And Dean goes, "I'm going for a little ride." And Sam goes, "What?" And Dean's like, "I'm going to leave that thing away. That busted piece of crap, you got to burn it." And he's like, "How the hell am I supposed to burn a truck, Dean?" And Dean's like, "I don't know. Figure something out if that's your problem, you know?" And he's just like, "That's your issue." So,
also, burning a truck, that's not that difficult to do, is it? I would think that between those two, they'd be able to do it.
So my thought process goes like this. Number one, it's soaking wet. It's soaking wet. How are you going to wet it?
Yes.
Right?
I
And
had
number
forgotten that
two,
part.
usually when they burn things, they burn it hot enough to like melt the metal or whatever. It would take a lot to burn a truck hot enough to actually melt that bitch. So I think those are the things that he's thinking of. So Dean,
Yeah, you have a good point.
Listen, Dean's a thirst trap because we all know that he's getting in Baby. Baby, who is the character in the show, as far as I'm concerned. He gets in Baby to save Cassie. All right. When we say true love, he is putting Baby in harm's way to save Cassie.
Yeah.
That is deep. Okay, you guys. That's as deep as it gets. And it's so sexy. So he reverses the Impala. He takes off. The engine's revving. The truck's coming after him. He is driving like a badass, but he's just getting pursued. But it's hot. Anytime Dean is driving, it's hot.
I loved this bit visually. It was amazing. The bit where it's kind of the windy road with the trees.
Yeah.
That was just beautiful. And I've written down, this is the start of my favourite part, but also the part I had some issues with. There's some very convenient things that happen.
Oh my goodness. She's gonna red flag my favorite scene.
No, this is my favourite scene. It's only like a couple of little flags. But no, this is the best bit.
Yeah, it is. So it is, as Laura said, really beautiful. This is like a fucking ghost road, you guys. There's moonlight, there's fog, there's eventually abandoned buildings. Like, this place is so scary country back road. Okay. And it is just so well done. Okay, so Sam's phone rings and you hear, "Hey, you got to give me a minute," because he's like trying to figure shit out. And Dean goes, "I don't have a minute. What are we doing?" Because Dean's like, "I'm about to die, motherfucker. Like, you need to help me out here." And Sam goes, "Let me get back to you." And then he hangs up on Dean. And Dean goes, "Get back to me?" Dean's like, "This motherfucker has one job. One job." Okay. So Sam's on the phone again and he goes, "Hey, Cassie, it's Sam. I need some information and it has to be exactly right." And then,
no pressure.
Okay, Sam organizing all of this has got to be a thirst trap, because this is basically researching but also saving people. Okay, saving people, hunting things. Honestly, hot. All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Sam's on the phone with Dean. He goes, "All right, Dean." And Dean goes, "This better be good." Dean is pissed. Okay. And Sam goes, "Where are you?" And Dean says, "In the middle of nowhere with a killer truck on my ass. It's like it knows I put the torch to Cyrus." And Sam goes, "Listen to me. This is important. I have to know exactly where you are." And so he's looking at this road sign as the Impala is roaring past, and he says, "Decatur Road, about 2 miles off the highway." And Sam goes, "Okay, headed east." And Dean goes, "Yes." And he's so angry. It's great.
This was my flag, because there just happens to be a sign saying exactly where he is when Sam says, "I need to know exactly where you are." But okay.
Listen, I think miracles happen for good people. That's like a little miracle that happens because they're heroes. I'm gonna allow it. Okay. So the truck beckons the Impala, and Dean's like losing control for a minute before he gets control again. And he's screaming, "You son of a bitch!" Because listen, nobody hurts baby. Okay.
No.
So I know that was fucking out of line. So Sam goes, "Okay, turn right, up ahead, turn right." Dean swings to the right. The truck following behind him. The engines are revving. It's really scary, but also really sexy. And Sam goes, "You make the turn." And Dean goes, "Yeah, I made the turn. You need to move this thing along a little faster." And he says, "All right, you see a road up ahead." Dean goes, "No, wait, yes, no, yes, I see it." The truck is slowly gaining on the Impala, and we're all going, "Oh, fuck." Like, he's about to get run the fuck down. Like, it's so close.
Yeah.
It's really good tension building. And Sam goes, "Okay, turn left." And Dean's like, "What the fuck?" Like, you could see it on his face. But he trusts his brother. So he slams on the brake. The truck goes past him. He spins the Impala left, and he goes down this smaller road. Again, anytime Dean is driving like this,
that was cool.
It's a thirst trap, okay? Mm-hmm. It's a thirst trap.
It was like a handbrake turn or something, because it's like a 90-degree
Oh my God.
turn.
So unbelievably hot. And Dean goes, "All right, what now?" And Sam says, "You need to go 7/10 of a mile and then stop." And Dean goes, "Stop." And Sam goes, "Exactly 7/10, Dean." So Dean's looking at the speedometer, which is how he gauges that. So he goes 7/10, 7/10, 7/10. And then at exactly.
Yeah, but how when it's a very, very stressful situation, how would you be like, I don't think I'd be able to do that in that stressful situation.
Well, I mean,
exactly 7/10. It would take me more time than the rest of this scene to actually work out what I'd need to stop at.
Luckily for us, Dean is mathematically sound. Okay. So
it is so good that I'm not doing flags to be an arsehole about it. I'm just, because it's really good. This is all very high intensity action, and I was on the edge of my seat.
Okay. So he spins the car around and moves it to sit exactly where Sam advises. And he's between these sections, and we realize as the camera's panning out that he's in this creepy looking abandoned building type. Like, there's just ruins around him. And we see him like rising up, and there's this one particularly pointy bit that looks like some kind of like almost like a tower. It's like very dark fairy tale looking. And it is so cool. And then the truck appears again down the road, and it's obviously figured out where he is, and it's about to go after him. And Sam says, "What's happening?" And Dean says, "It's just staring at me. What do I do?" And Sam says, "Just what you're doing, bringing it to you." And Dean goes, "What?" And you can tell Dean is about to be like, "What the actual fuck, bro?" Yeah. So the truck spins around and barrels towards the Impala, and I'm like, "Oh, you're playing ghost car chicken now." And Dean watches it come, and he's white knuckling it, but he's believing in his brother, and he's like, "Come on, come on." Like, you can see he's scared, and you can see that he's shitting a brick because he's closing his eyes at the last minute, like, "Oh, fuck." But basically, it disintegrates. It hits, but it doesn't hit him. It's like it hits this invisible barrier, and it just blows up. And he opens his eyes, and there's just empty road. And Sam goes, "Dean, are you still there?" And Dean's like, "Where'd it go?" And he's in shock. And Sam goes, "Dean, you're where the church was." And Dean goes, "What church?" "The place Cyrus burned down where he murdered all those kids." And Dean sees like the ruins and realizes that it's that's what it is. It's just a shell. And he goes, there's not a whole lot of it left. And Sam says, church ground is hallowed ground, whether the church is there or not. Evil spirits cross over hallowed ground. Sometimes they're destroyed. So I figured maybe that would get rid of it. I'm going to pause for a minute about the beautifulness of that. Like the fact that they wrote in the revenge of those kids, because we know what really happened. And I just think that's a sweet, really nice piece of a fairy tale from the writers. A little bit of justice and storytelling.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. And Dean goes, maybe, what if you are wrong? And Sam's like, honestly, that thought hadn't occurred to me. And he means it. He's like, that didn't occur to me. And Dean hangs up and then he goes, well, it honestly didn't occur to me. He's so angry. He smashes his hand into the steering wheel. He's like, I'm going to kill him. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. It is funny.
Really good. I did write down about that bit because you know how there's been a couple of times now where I've had the same reaction, like when I'm watching it, I've had the same reaction as Dean before he's actually had his reaction. Yeah. And I did it again because when he was saying sometimes they're destroyed, and I was like, sometimes? Well, that was a risky move then.
Yeah. Okay, so Dean and Cassie are walking towards the Impala, and Sam is already sitting down in the driver's seat. So we know that life is back to front because Sam is about to be driving. And Cassie says, my mother says to tell you thanks again. And Dean is nodding, and they're stopping by the Impala, and they turn to face each other, and she says, this is a better goodbye than last time. And he says, yeah, well, maybe this time it'll be a little less permanent. And we're like, he loves her. Because this is Dean. Dean is the guy who's like practical. He's like, we're on the road. We're working with Dad. We can't have these entanglements. But for Cassie, he's like, it doesn't have to be the end. That's really what he's saying. And she says, you know what? I'm a realist. I don't see much hope for us, Dean. And Dean says, well, I've seen stranger things happen a hell of a lot stranger. And it's that too. It's like, she's like, but realistically, you're leaving to go on the road. And he's like, I've seen stranger things. And I was like, he loves her. He really fucking loves her. That's the wildest declaration of love that you're probably ever going to get out of Dean Winchester.
And this whole time, this beautiful interaction is going on. Sam's just being a creeper watching them in the car.
Yeah. And Cassie says goodbye, Dean. And Dean's last words, he says, I'll see you, Cassie. I will. Like, Dean is not giving up on this. He's not letting her go. And that's so romantic. And they kiss each other, and they have this whole moment. And then Dean gets into the car, and the Impala takes off. And I am living for this romance, okay? So
yes,
Sam says, I like her. And Dean says, yeah. And Sam says, you meet someone like her, doesn't it make you wonder if it's worth it, putting everything else on hold, doing what we do? And Dean looks at Sam for this really long time, and then he smiles, and then he puts on the sunglasses. And then he lays back and he says, why don't you wake me up when it's my turn to drive? Which, for me, he's decided that he's not going to give up on it. In this moment in time, we know from what he said to Cassie that in his head, he doesn't have to give up Cassie. Like, he refuses to give up Cassie. And again, that's the most romantic thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. I hope we do see her again. And no spoilers, but yeah, I hope she comes back at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's incredible. I love her. I love this episode. I love seeing this side of Dean. And I really enjoyed it. Like, what was your episode sort of scare rating at for this one?
I wrote down 8.5 because there was some scary bits, and like the mayor's death and stuff like that was like grisly. And all the truck stuff, like where it was putting the headlights through the cars and stuff like that was scary. And the chase bit at the end where it's chasing Dean, all of that bit was really scary. That was one of those scenes where it was scary and then it had the funny lines at the end again, like we've grown to love
the horror and the comedy. The horror comedy.
Yes, I like having both. Because if I watch something really scary, I then usually have to watch something funny before I go to bed. So with this, and it's not like super, super scary, apart from the Bloody Mary episode.
Mhm.
But yeah, I appreciate the comedy as well.
Yeah, so I'd probably give it an 8.5 as well. The villain, hot or not, absolutely not. Disgusting.
No.
I think
Favorite quote?
I was
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
say, I'm trying to think of. I think my favorite quote of the episode is not actually witty banter, it's storytelling. It's when Sam says, Dean, you're where the church was.
Uh-huh.
That's actually my favorite quote, which is not, I know I'm taking it serious and something that
Yeah,
we
that's
don't
okay.
usually take serious, but that's my actual favorite quote from the whole episode.
Yeah, you can have a serious quote.
Yeah, thank you.
Mine isn't. Mine is, sure it did. Now it's really pissed.
Yeah, that was great. That was really good. If I was gonna pick a funny one, it would be the line where he asks Cassie to stay and he says please, because she's like, don't boss me around.
Yeah.
And he's like, stay here, please. It's great.
Yeah, I liked that bit.
Yeah.
What was your best thirst trap?
That section where he's doing the handbrake turn moment, where he's being pursued, but he just does that whole badass like turn and escape, and it's super, super hot. I think that's
you like him in the car.
You like him with his driving I have a weakness maneuvers for the super hot Dean Winchester driving moments.
Yeah. Mine was Dean leaning against the pillar in Cassie's house when he goes to see her before they get it on.
That is also very hot. Yeah. I think my next runner-up moment would be when they're arguing and they're wearing the suits, like they're putting the suits on. Because again, a tie for me. A tie.
Yeah.
Ooh. A tie is basically just a leash, as far as I'm concerned. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's hot. There's things you can do with a tie. Anyway.
There wasn't really any motel decor. I just put Cassie's house was cool though.
Yeah, I feel like we don't really see the motel because there's like that tiny moment where they're changing and that's it. And you don't even really see the room that they're in that much. Like it doesn't look bad.
We're too busy looking at their suits.
Honestly, we're too busy thirst trapping, aren't we? So it doesn't exist in our minds. But yeah, Cassie's house is really cool. So I think that was the set for the episode, really.
Yeah. Who do we think is the MVP of the episode?
It's Sam. It's Sam, because Sam figures out how to get rid of the monster truck.
Yeah, I was thinking it's either Sam or Dean because of that bit at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sam, I agree with it being Sam.
Because I mean,
Dean, he comes up with a plan.
Dean is like, I'm going to save my girl, and drives off, and that's super hot. And he's putting himself like directly in harm's way. And it's his whole plan is for Sam to deal with it. But without Sam having this moment of genius, everybody's fucked. So in my opinion, it has to be Sam.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Anything else you want to say to wrap up?
No, this is a very sexy episode, and that's all I have to say. It's sexy in social justice, and it's sexy in men in ties.
Okay, I can't really say anything to after that, so I think that's where we should end it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. We would be very grateful. And if you know someone who would enjoy it, please share.
You can find us on Instagram at the Witches of Letters podcast, or you can email us at thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe out there, have each other's backs, and always keep fighting.